The phone rang at 4 in the morning, cutting through my sleep like a rusty blade. Nobody calls at 4 a.m. with good news. I fumbled for it in the dark, my hand knocking over the empty whiskey bottle on my nightstand. Vincent Mallory? The voice was crisp, professional, female. Yeah, that's me. What's wrong? Sir, I'm calling from Cleveland General Hospital. Your wife is in labor. I sat up so fast my head spun. Lady, I think you got the wrong number. My wife died 2 years ago. There was a pause, papers rustling. I'm looking at Melanie Mallory's emergency contact form. You're listed as her husband. A chill shot through me. Melanie. My Mel. Gone and buried in Riverside Cemetery for 24 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. I'd counted every one of them. That's impossible, I whispered. Sir, she's asking for you. Room 314. I hung up and stared at the phone like it might bite me. Last time I saw Mel, she was in a casket, pale as winter snow, wearing the blue dress she'd bought for our anniversary. The anniversary we never got to celebrate because she wrapped her Honda around an oak tree on Route 2. But hospitals don't make mistakes like this, do they? I threw on yesterday's clothes and drove through empty streets, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Cleveland at 4 a.m. looked like a ghost town. Streetlights casting yellow pools on cracked asphalt. Abandoned storefronts staring back with dark windows. The kind of hour when the world feels broken and nothing makes sense. Cleveland General squatted like a concrete monster against the gray sky. I'd been here before, the night they told me Mel was gone. The smell hit me as soon as I walked in. Disinfectant, fear, and something else I couldn't name. Loss, maybe. Room 314 was on the 3rd floor. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my work boots echoing in the stairwell. A nurse tried to stop me at the desk, but I brushed past her. Whatever was waiting in that room, I needed to see it. I pushed open the door and my world tilted sideways. A woman lay in the hospital bed, exhausted and sweaty, holding a newborn baby. She had Mel's face, Mel's dark hair, Mel's green eyes that used to light up when she laughed. But it wasn't Mel. Vincent, she said, and her voice was different, softer. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Who the heck are you? She looked down at the baby, then back at me. I'm Lucy, Melanie's twin sister. Twin sister. In 15 years of marriage, Mel had never mentioned a twin sister. Heck, she'd barely mentioned any family at all. Said they were all gone or might as well be. That's impossible. Mel didn't have a sister. She did. She had me. Lucy shifted the baby in her arms. We've been estranged for years. But when she needed help, when she needed to disappear, the word came out like a growl. She's gone. I buried her. Lucy shook her head. You buried me. Or rather, you buried the woman everyone thought was Melanie. I took her place that night. Switched identities. She needed out, Vincent. She was in trouble. The room spun around me. I grabbed the back of a chair to keep from falling. You're telling me my wife faked her own loss? She's alive. Living in Norway under my name. Has been for 2 years. Norway. While I'd been drinking myself stupid and working double shifts at the steel mill to pay off her funeral expenses, she'd been living it up in Norway. Why? The words scraped out of my throat like broken glass. Lucy looked uncomfortable. There was a scandal at the hospital where she worked, an affair with her boss. Things got complicated. She needed a fresh start. An affair, of course. I thought about all those late nights she'd claimed to be working, all those mysterious phone calls she'd taken in the next room, all those times she'd come home smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. Who was he? Dr. Alex Pruitt. He runs the cardiology department. I knew that name. Mel had mentioned him before, always with a little too much enthusiasm. Dr. Pruitt this, Dr. Pruitt that. I'd even met him once at a hospital Christmas party. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of guy who wore suits that cost more than I made in a month. So she screwed her boss, got caught, and decided to fake her loss rather than face the music? Lucy nodded miserably. Alex helped arrange everything. He falsified the loss certificate, handled the paperwork, made it look like an accident. And you went along with it? She's my sister, my twin. We may have had our differences, but She trailed off, looking down at the baby again. Whose kid is that? Mine. But the father... It's complicated. Everything was complicated. My late wife was alive, my grief was a lie, my marriage was a joke. And now I was standing in a hospital room with a woman who looked exactly like the woman who'd destroyed my life. I need some air, I said. I stumbled out into the hallway, past the nurse's station, past the elevator, until I found myself on a fire escape overlooking the parking lot. The November wind cut through my jacket like it was made of paper. Mel was alive in Norway, probably laughing about how she'd fooled everyone, especially her stupid husband, who'd believed she was gone, who'd cried at her funeral, who'd visited her grave every Sunday for 2 years. I pulled out my phone and called the only person I could trust. Diesel, it's Vince. Jesus, Vince, it's not even 5 in the morning. What's wrong? Dwayne Diesel Briggs had been my best friend since high school. Ex-cop, built like a brick wall, with the kind of street smarts that came from 20 years of dealing with Cleveland's worst. If anyone could help me figure this out, it was him. I need you to meet me at Cleveland General. And Diesel? Yeah? Bring your detective skills. I think I'm about to need them. An hour later, Diesel sat across from me in the hospital cafeteria, his massive hands wrapped around a coffee cup, listening to my story with the kind of focused attention that had made him a good cop. So let me get this straight, he said when I finished. Your supposedly late wife is actually alive in Norway, her twin sister just had a baby and is pretending to be her. And some doctor helped fake the whole thing? That's about the size of it. And you want me to do what exactly? I want you to help me find out everything. How they pulled it off, why they did it, what else they're hiding. I leaned forward. And then I want to make them pay for it. Diesel studied my face. Vince, I get that you're pissed. Heck, I'd be ready to end someone if I were you. But revenge is a dangerous game. They made me bury an empty coffin, Diesel. They let me grieve for 2 years while she was off living her new life. They stole my life from me. What about the sister, Lucy? I thought about her holding that baby, the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she'd looked at me with something that might have been guilt or pity. She's part of it. She has to be. Maybe, or maybe she's as much a victim as you are. I didn't want to hear that. I wanted everyone involved in this mess to be the enemy. It was simpler that way. Will you help me or not? Diesel sighed and drained his coffee. Yeah, I'll help you. But we do this smart, no cowboy stuff. We gather information first, then we decide what to do with it. Agreed. And Vince? When we find out the truth, the whole truth, you might not like what we discover. He was right about that, but I was past caring. I'd been living a lie for 2 years. It was time to find out what the truth looked like, no matter how ugly it turned out to be. We started with Lucy. I went back to her room while Diesel waited in the parking lot. She was awake, staring out the window at the gray morning sky. I need to know everything, I said without preamble. She looked at me with those familiar green eyes. I've told you everything. No, you haven't. You've told me the basics. I want details. I want to know how you pulled off the switch. I want to know about this Dr. Pruitt. And I want to know why you're really here. Lucy was quiet for a long moment. You're not going to let this go, are you? Would you? She shifted the baby to her other arm. The switch was easier than you'd think. We're identical twins. We used to fool people all the time when we were kids. Melanie called me 3 days before the accident. She was panicking, said she was in trouble and needed help. What kind of trouble? Doctor. Pruitt's wife had found out about the affair. She was threatening to go to the hospital board, to the medical licensing board, to anyone who would listen. Alex was going to lose his job, his reputation, everything, and Melanie... What about Melanie? She was pregnant. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Pregnant? With Alex's baby. She'd been having the affair for over a year. When his wife found out, when everything started falling apart, Melanie panicked. She couldn't face the scandal, couldn't face you finding out. So she came up with this plan. Pregnant. My wife had been pregnant with another man's child and I'd never known. How long had she been lying to me? How long had she been planning to leave? What happened to the baby? Lucy looked down at the infant in her arms. You're looking at her. I stared at the tiny face, searching for any resemblance to Mel or to me. But she just looked like a baby, red and wrinkled and completely innocent of the mess that had brought her into the world. So this is Alex's kid? Yes. And you've been raising her? Melanie couldn't take her to Norway. Too complicated and too many questions, so she left her with me. Jesus. I ran my hands through my hair. So she abandoned her own child too. She sends money, not much, but some. How generous of her. Lucy looked up at me sharply. I know you're angry, Vincent. You have every right to be. But Melanie isn't a monster. She's just lost. She's been lost for a long time. Don't. My voice came out harder than I intended. Don't you dare make excuses for her. She let me think she was gone forever. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Lucy's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you so many times. But she made me promise. Why are you telling me now? She looked down at the baby again. Because I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living her lie, and because... She hesitated. Because what? Because I think she's planning to come back. A rush of heat flooded my head. What do you mean, come back? She's been having problems in Norway. Work problems, immigration problems. She's been asking about coming home, resuming her old identity. She wants to just waltz back into her old life after everything. She thinks enough time has passed, that people will have forgotten about the scandal. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. And what about me? Did she think I'd just welcome her back with open arms? She assumed you'd moved on, that you'd be remarried by now. Moved on, right. Like losing the love of your life was something you just got over. Like grief had an expiration date. I need to make some calls, I said. I left Lucy with her baby and her guilt and found Diesel in the parking lot. Well, he asked. I told him everything Lucy had revealed about the pregnancy, about Dr. Pruitt, about Mel's possible return. Son of a witch, he said when I finished. This is bigger than we thought. I want to talk to this Dr. Pruitt. Not yet. First, we need to verify Lucy's story. I still have contacts at the hospital, people who might remember the scandal. Let me make some calls. Diesel, I need you to understand something. I'm not looking for closure here. I'm not looking to forgive and forget. I want these people to pay for what they did to me. He looked at me for a long moment. What exactly are you planning, Vince? I don't know yet. But whatever it is, it's going to hurt them as much as they hurt me. Just remember, revenge is a dish best served cold. And smart. I'll remember. But as I drove home through the morning traffic, past the steel mill where I'd been working double shifts to pay for a funeral that was a lie, past the cemetery where I'd been talking to an empty grave for 2 years, I wasn't thinking about being smart. I was thinking about fate. Over the next week, Diesel's contacts at Cleveland General painted a picture that made me sick to my stomach. The affair between Mel and Dr. Pruitt hadn't been some secret romance. It had been the talk of the hospital. Nurses gossiped about it in the break room. Orderlies made jokes about Dr. Pruitt's special patient. Even the janitors knew. Everyone knew except me. Roxanne Greer, Mel's younger sister, who I'd met exactly twice in 15 years of marriage, agreed to meet me at a bar downtown. She was nothing like Mel. Bleached blonde, too much makeup. The kind of woman who looked like she'd been rode hard and put away wet. I wondered when you'd come looking for answers, she said, lighting her third cigarette since I'd sat down. You knew? Honey, I knew before you did. Mel called me crying about a month before the accident. Said she was in love with some doctor, said she was pregnant, said she didn't know what to do. And you didn't think to tell me? Roxy blew smoke toward the ceiling. Wasn't my place. Besides, you seemed happy enough not knowing. Happy? I was living a lie. We're all living lies, sweetie. Some of us are just better at it than others. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her, but I kept my hands wrapped around my beer bottle. Tell me about the night she died. Which time? The fake loss or the real one? What do you mean, real one? Roxy's eyes widened. Oh, crap. You don't know, do you? Know what? She stubbed out her cigarette and immediately lit another one. Mel's gone, honey, for real this time. It has been for about 6 months. The bar spun around me. That's impossible. Lucy said she was in Norway. Lucy's been lying to everyone, including you. Mel died in a car accident in Oslo last winter. Lucy's been pretending she's still alive, still sending money, still planning to come back, but she's gone, Vince. Really gone this time. I stared at her. Why would Lucy lie about that? Because she's scared. Because she's got that baby and no way to support her. Because she thought if you knew the truth, you'd kick her out on the street. Jesus Christ. There's more. More? Dr. Pruitt doesn't know Mel's gone either. Lucy's been pretending to be Mel, sending him emails, keeping the charade going. She's been milking him for money, threatening to come back and expose him if he doesn't pay. She's been blackmailing him? Smart girl, if you ask me. That bastard deserves whatever he gets. I left Roxy at the bar and called Diesel for my car. We need to talk, I said. Now. We met at his apartment, a sparse one-bedroom place that still looked like a cop lived there, even though he'd been retired for 3 years. Lucy's been playing everyone, I told him, what Roxy had revealed. So your wife really is gone? Yeah, but not when I thought. And Lucy's been running some kind of long con on Dr. Pruitt. What are you going to do? I thought about Lucy in that hospital room, holding the baby, looking at me with those lying green eyes. I thought about Dr. Pruitt, who'd helped fake my wife's disappearance and had been paying blackmail money for months. I thought about Mel, truly gone this time, in a grave I'd never seen. I'm going to burn it all down. Vince, they all lied to me, Diesel. Every single one of them. Mel, Lucy, Pruitt, even Roxy knew more than I did. I've been the fool in this story for too long. What's your plan? I smiled, and I could feel how cold it was. I'm going to give everyone exactly what they deserve. The next morning, I went back to Cleveland General. Lucy was being discharged, struggling to carry the baby in her bag at the same time. She looked surprised to see me. Vincent, what are you doing here? Thought you might need a ride. That's very kind of you. I took her bag and led her to my truck. She strapped the baby into a car seat she'd somehow acquired and climbed into the passenger seat. Where to? I asked. I don't really have anywhere to go. You can stay with me for a while, until you figure things out. She looked at me with suspicion. Why would you do that? Because despite everything, you're family, sort of. It was a lie, but it was a useful lie. I needed her close. I needed to understand exactly how deep this conspiracy went. My house felt different with Lucy and the baby in it. For 2 years, it had been a mausoleum. Mel's pictures on the walls, her clothes still in the closet, her coffee mug still in the sink where she'd left it that last morning. Now there were baby bottles in the kitchen and the sound of crying at all hours. Lucy was a good mother, I had to give her that. Attentive, patient, gentle with the child, in a way that made me wonder if Mel would have been the same way. But every time I looked at her, all I could see was another liar, in a story full of them. On the third day, I made my move. I've been thinking about what you told me, I said over breakfast, about Mel being in Norway. What about it? I'd like to contact her. Lucy nearly choked on her coffee. Contact her? Why? Because she's still my wife, because I deserve to hear from her directly why she did this to me. Vincent, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because she's moved on. She has a new life. Contacting her would just open old wounds. My wounds are already open. Lucy looked down at her plate. I don't have her contact information. Another lie. I could see it in the way she avoided my eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her coffee cup. That's okay, I said. I'll find another way. That afternoon, while Lucy was napping and the baby was quiet, I went through her things. I felt like a criminal, but I was past caring about privacy. These people had stolen 2 years of my life. A little snooping seemed like fair play. I found what I was looking for in her purse, a smartphone with a cracked screen and a dozen unread emails. Most of them were junk, but 3 were from Dr. Alex Pruitt. The most recent one, sent just 2 days ago, was short and desperate. I can't keep doing this. The payments are draining me, and my wife is asking questions. We need to meet and figure out how to end this. Please. A. Lucy had been pretending to be Mel, keeping the blackmail scheme going even after Mel was gone. But why? Money was the obvious answer, but looking around my modest house, seeing the way she'd been living, it was clear she wasn't getting rich off this. I scrolled through the other emails. Dr. Pruitt had been sending her $2,000 a month for the past 6 months. Not a fortune, but enough to live on if you were careful. But there was something else in the emails, something that made my blood run cold. In one of them, Pruitt mentioned our daughter. Our daughter. Not Alex's daughter. Our daughter. I looked toward the living room where the baby was sleeping in her carrier. Lucy had told me the baby was Alex's. But what if that was another lie? What if the baby was mine? I thought back to the timeline. Mel had died, really died, 6 months ago. The baby looked to be about 2 months old. If Mel had been pregnant when she faked her loss 2 years ago, and if she'd had the baby in Norway, the baby could be mine. I was still staring at the phone when Lucy walked into the kitchen. What are you doing? She asked, but she already knew. I could see it in her face. Interesting reading, I said, holding up the phone. She lunged for it, but I pulled it away. Give me that. Whose baby is that, Lucy? I told you. She's Alex's. The emails say different. Dr. Pruitt thinks she's his and yours. But she's not yours, is she? She's Mel's, which means she might be mine. Lucy sank into a chair, her face crumbling. Vincent, please, how long has Mel been dead? 6 months. And you've been pretending to be her, milking Dr. Pruitt for money. I didn't have a choice. She left me with nothing but a baby and a bunch of lies. I had to survive somehow. Is she mine? Lucy looked toward the living room, then back at me. I don't know. Mel never said. She could be yours or Alex's. There's no way to tell without a test. Then we'll get a test. Vincent, what difference does it make? Mel's gone, really gone this time. The baby needs someone to take care of her. And you figured you'd just keep running your little scam forever? It's not a scam. Alex helped end my sister. He deserves to pay for that. Your sister ended herself when she decided to fake her loss and run away. Alex just helped her do it. She was scared. She made a mistake. She made a choice. And now I'm going to make one too. I stood up and walked to the living room, looking down at the sleeping baby. She had dark hair like Mel's, but her nose looked like mine. Or maybe I was just seeing what I wanted to see. What are you going to do? Lucy asked from behind me. I'm going to end this. All of it. What does that mean? I turned to face her. It means Dr. Pruitt and I are going to have a conversation. And then you and I are going to figure out what happens next. Vincent, please, if you expose Alex, if you end the payments, I won't be able to take care of the baby. Maybe that's not your job anymore. Her face went white. You can't take her from me. I'm all she has. We'll see about that. The next morning, I called Cleveland General and made an appointment to see Dr. Alex Pruitt. I told his secretary I was interested in discussing a cardiac procedure for my father. It wasn't true. My father had been dead for 10 years, but it got me in the door. Dr. Pruitt's office was everything I'd expected. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, diplomas covering the walls. The man himself was tall and distinguished, with silver hair and the kind of confident bearing that came from years of being the smartest person in the room. Mr. Mallory, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming in. I understand you're concerned about your father's heart condition. Actually, Dr. Pruitt, I'm here about my wife. His face didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Your wife? Melanie Mallory. Though I guess you knew her better than I did. Now his face did change. The color drained out of it, and he sank into his chair like someone had cut his strings. I think there's been some misunderstanding, he said carefully. No misunderstanding. I know about the affair. I know about the fake loss. I know about the blackmail payments you've been making for the past 6 months. Mr. Mallory, I think you should leave. I think I should stay. We have a lot to talk about. He reached for his phone, but I held up my hand. Before you call security, you should know that I have copies of all the emails. The ones where you talk about falsifying the loss certificate. The ones where you talk about the money you've been sending. The ones where you talk about your daughter. His hand froze over the phone. What do you want? I want the truth, all of it. He stared at me for a long moment, then slowly put the phone down. Melanie came to me in a panic, he said finally. She said her husband was getting suspicious about the affair. She said she was pregnant and didn't know what to do. So you helped her fake her loss. It was her idea. She said it was the only way out, the only way to start over. And you went along with it because you were in love with her? I was infatuated. She was beautiful, intelligent, exciting. My marriage had been dead for years. Melanie made me feel alive again, alive enough to commit fraud. I falsified one document, one loss certificate. It seemed like a small thing at the time. Small thing. I buried an empty coffin because of that document. I'm sorry, I truly am. But Melanie said you'd be better off without her. She said the marriage was over anyway. Did she now? And what about after? When she was safely in Norway? We kept in touch. She sent pictures of the baby. We talked about her coming back someday, about us being together. But then the blackmail started. She said she needed money, said Norway was more expensive than she'd expected. I sent what I could. $2,000 a month. My wife handles our finances. I had to be careful not to send too much at once. When did you realize it wasn't really Mel you were corresponding with? His eyes widened. What do you mean? Come on, doctor, you're a smart man. When did you figure out that Mel was gone and her sister was running the show? That's impossible. I've been getting emails from her regularly. From Lucy, Mel's twin sister. Mel passed away in a car accident in Oslo 6 months ago. Dr. Pruitt stared at me like I'd just told him the earth was flat. She's gone? As a doornail. Has been since last winter. Lucy's been pretending to be her, keeping the money flowing. But the emails. She knew things only Melanie would know. Twins share a lot of memories, Doctor, especially twins who were close enough to pull off an identity switch. He put his head in his hands. My God, what have I done? You've been played, by Mel, then by Lucy. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We, you and me, we're both victims here, in our own ways. We've both been lied to and manipulated by the same people. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we work together to clean up this mess. How? I leaned forward in my chair. First, you stop sending money. Cut off all contact. Lucy's blackmail scheme ends today. And in return, I don't go to the police, the medical board, or your wife with evidence of what you've done. You're blackmailing me now? I'm offering you a way out. Take it or leave it. He was quiet for a long moment, thinking it over. What about the baby? What about her? If Melanie is really gone, if Lucy has been pretending to be her, who's taking care of the child? Lucy has been, but that might be changing. What do you mean? I mean the baby might be mine, not yours. And if she is, I'm going to raise her. How will you know? DNA test, simple enough. Dr. Pruitt nodded slowly. And if she's mine, then we'll figure that out when we come to it. This is insane. Doctor, insane is letting your late mistress's sister blackmail you for months. This is just cleaning up the mess. He finally nodded. All right, I'll stop the payments. Cut off contact. But I want to know the results of that DNA test. Fair enough. I stood up and headed for the door. Mr. Mallory? Yeah? I really am sorry about all of it. So am I, Doctor. So am I. When I got home, Lucy was in the kitchen feeding the baby. She looked up when I walked in and I could see the fear in her eyes. How did it go? Dr. Pruitt and I had a very productive conversation. What did you tell him? The truth. That Mel's dead. That you've been impersonating her. That the blackmail stops now. Lucy's face crumpled. Vincent, please. I need that money. No, you don't. You need to stop living a lie and figure out how to build a real life. With what? I don't have any job skills. I don't have any money saved. I don't have anything except her. She gestured toward the baby. Then maybe it's time to learn some job skills. It's not that easy. Nothing about this situation is easy, Lucy. But continuing to live a lie isn't going to make it any easier. What am I supposed to do? First, we're going to get a DNA test. Find out whose baby this really is. And then we'll figure out the rest. The DNA test took a week to come back. A week during which Lucy barely spoke to me, spending her time taking care of the baby and staring out windows like she was planning an escape. I didn't blame her. Her whole world was about to change one way or the other. The results came in a manila envelope that I stared at for 10 minutes before opening. The baby was mine. I read the report 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. But there it was, in black and white, a 99.7% probability that I was the father. Mel had been carrying my child when she faked her loss. My daughter had been born in Norway, raised by her aunt, and was now sleeping in a carrier in my living room. I walked over and looked down at her. Now that I knew, I could see the resemblance more clearly. She had my nose, my chin, Mel's eyes and hair, but my face. She's yours, isn't she? I turned. Lucy was standing in the doorway watching me. Yeah, she's mine. I knew she might be. Mel was never sure, but the timing, why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared you'd take her away from me. She's all I have left of Mel. She's all I have left of Mel, too. Lucy came into the room and sat down across from me. What happens now? Now we figure out how to do what's best for her. Which is? I looked at the baby again, my daughter. I'd never thought I'd have children. Mel had always said she wasn't ready, that we should wait. Now I found out I'd been a father for 2 months without knowing it. I don't know yet. But I know it doesn't involve any more lies. I can't take care of her without the money from Alex. Then maybe you can't take care of her at all. Lucy's eyes filled with tears. You can't just take her from me. I've been her mother since the day she was born. You've been her caretaker. There's a difference. Is there? I'm the one who's been getting up with her at night. I'm the one who's been feeding her, changing her, holding her when she cries. What have you been doing? It was a fair question, and it stung because she was right. I'd been so focused on revenge, on uncovering the truth, that I'd barely thought about what was best for the baby. "You're right," I said, "but that doesn't change the fact that she's my daughter. So what do you want to do? Kick me out and raise her yourself? I want to do what's right for her." "Which is?" I thought about it. I had a decent job at the steel mill, but it involved long hours and shift work. I didn't know anything about taking care of a baby. Lucy, for all her faults, clearly loved the child and knew how to care for her. "Maybe we can work something out." "What kind of something?" "You can stay here. Help me raise her. But no more lies, no more schemes, no more pretending to be someone you're not. And in return, you get to be part of her life. Not as her mother, I'm her only parent now, but as her aunt, as someone who cares about her." Lucy was quiet for a long time, thinking it over. "What about money? How will we manage?" "I make decent money at the mill. We'll figure it out." "And Dr. Pruitt?" "Dr. Pruitt is out of our lives, permanently." She nodded slowly. "Okay, I can live with that." "Good, because there's one more thing." "What?" "I'm going to tell everyone the truth. About Mel, about the fake loss, about all of it." Lucy's face went pale. "Vincent, you can't. The scandal will destroy what's left of Mel's reputation. Mel destroyed her own reputation when she decided to fake her loss and abandon her family. I'm just setting the record straight. But people will find out about the baby, about the affair, about everything. Let them. I'm tired of living with other people's lies. What about me? What about my reputation? You should have thought about that before you decided to impersonate your dead sister and blackmail her lover." Lucy looked down at the baby, then back at me. "When?" "Soon. I've already started making calls." The truth, when it finally came out, hit Cleveland like a bomb. I started with the newspaper, a reporter who'd covered Mel's original loss and was interested in the follow-up story. Then I called the hospital administration, the medical board, and finally the police. Within a week, the story was everywhere. "Wife presumed gone faked her own disappearance" was the headline in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. The local TV stations picked it up, then the regional ones, then CNN. Dr. Alex Pruitt was suspended from his position pending an investigation. His wife filed for divorce. The hospital launched an internal review of all loss certificates he'd signed in the past 5 years. Lucy was questioned by police but not charged. Apparently, impersonating your supposedly deceased twin sister isn't technically illegal if you're not using the identity to commit fraud. The blackmail was harder to prove, since all the emails had been deleted, and Dr. Pruitt wasn't eager to press charges and make his situation worse. As for me, I became something of a local celebrity. The man who'd been married to a ghost. The husband who'd discovered his wife's ultimate betrayal. People I barely knew would stop me on the street to offer condolences or ask for details. I hated every minute of it. But there was one good thing that came out of all the attention. I heard from people who'd known about Mel's affair and had kept quiet. Friends who'd seen her with Dr. Pruitt but hadn't wanted to be the one to tell me. Coworkers who'd suspected something but hadn't said anything. It was painful to learn how many people had known the truth while I'd been living in ignorance, but it was also liberating. No more secrets, no more lies, no more wondering what people weren't telling me. The hardest conversation was with my son, Tommy. He'd been away at college when his mother passed, and he'd taken it hard. Now I had to tell him that not only was she really gone, but she'd been lying to all of us for years. "I don't understand," he said when I finished explaining everything. "Why would she do that?" "Because she was scared. Because she'd made mistakes and didn't know how to face them. But to let us think she was dead. I know, it's unforgivable. Do I have a sister?" "You do. Her name is Emma." I'd named her after my mother, who died when I was Tommy's age. "Can I meet her?" "Of course. You're her big brother." Tommy was quiet for a long time, processing everything. "Dad?" "Yeah? I'm sorry for all of it." "You don't have anything to be sorry for, son. You're the only one that in this whole mess who didn't lie to me. What happens now? Now we move forward, we take care of Emma, we try to build something good out of all this wreckage. And Lucy? Lucy's trying to figure out her own life. She's looking for a job, trying to make amends. We'll see how that goes. Do you forgive her?" It was a good question. Did I forgive Lucy for her part in the deception? For impersonating her sister? For blackmailing Dr. Pruitt? For lying to me about Mel being alive? "I'm working on it," I said finally. "Forgiveness takes time." 6 months later, life had settled into something resembling normal. Lucy had found a job at a daycare center. Ironic, considering she was taking care of other people's children while helping me raise my own. She'd moved into the basement apartment I'd had converted, giving us both space while keeping her close to Emma. Dr. Pruitt had lost his medical license and his wife. Last I heard, he was working at a clinic in Florida, trying to rebuild his life. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Emma was crawling now, getting into everything, keeping both Lucy and me busy. She was a happy baby, quick to smile, quick to laugh. Sometimes when I looked at her, I could see Mel in her expressions, but mostly I just saw Emma, my daughter, innocent of all the lies and betrayals that had brought her into the world. I was giving her a bottle one evening when Lucy came upstairs from her apartment. "Vincent, we need to talk." "What about?" "I got a call today, from a lawyer in Norway." My blood went cold. "What kind of lawyer?" "Mel's lawyer. She left a will." "What does it say?" Lucy sat down across from me, her face serious. "She left everything to Emma. Her bank accounts, her apartment, everything. It's not much, but it's something." "How much?" "About $30,000 after taxes and legal fees." I thought about that. $30,000, not a fortune, but enough to start a college fund for Emma, enough to provide for her future. "There's something else," Lucy said, "and what?" "She wrote a letter to you." She pulled an envelope from her purse and handed it to me. My name was written on the front in Mel's familiar handwriting. When did she write this? According to the lawyer, about a week before she died. She'd been carrying it around, trying to decide whether to send it. I stared at the envelope for a long moment. Did I really want to read Mel's final words? Did I want to know what she'd been thinking in those last days? "I'll leave you alone," Lucy said, starting to get up. "No, stay. Whatever she wrote, you should hear it too." I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Mel's handwriting filled 2 pages. Small, neat, precise. "My dear Vincent," I read aloud. "If you're reading this, then Lucy has finally told you the truth, and I am probably gone. I know that sounds dramatic, but I've been living with the consequences of my choices for 2 years now, and I don't think I can live with them much longer." I paused, looking at Lucy. She was crying silently. "I know you must hate me. I know you must think I'm a monster for letting you believe I was gone. And maybe I am, but I need you to understand that I never meant for it to go this far. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I knew the baby might be yours, but I also knew she might be Alex's. I couldn't face the possibility of destroying our marriage with that uncertainty. So I convinced myself that running away was the kindest thing I could do for everyone. I was wrong. I see that now. I was selfish and cowardly, and I hurt the people I loved most. I hurt you. I hurt Tommy. I hurt our daughter, who will grow up never knowing her real mother. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I hope someday you can understand that I loved you, even when I was betraying you. I loved you enough to think you'd be better off without me. I was wrong about that too. Please take care of Emma. Please give her the love and stability I never could. And please don't let my mistakes poison her future. I'm sorry, Vincent, for all of it. I'm so very sorry. Love always, Mel. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Lucy was still crying, and I realized I was too. She really did love you, Lucy said softly. Maybe, but love without trust isn't worth much. What will you tell Emma when she's old enough to ask about her mother? I looked down at my daughter, sleeping peacefully in my arms. I'll tell her the truth, that her mother was a complicated woman who made some terrible choices, that she loved Emma enough to make sure she was provided for, even after loss, and that sometimes love isn't enough to fix the damage we do to each other. That's a hard truth for a child to hear. All the best truths are hard, but they're still better than lies. Lucy nodded. I should go. Let you have some time with her. Lucy? Yes? Thank you for taking care of her, for bringing her to me, for finally telling the truth. I should have told you sooner. Maybe, but you told me eventually. That counts for something. After she left, I sat in the quiet living room with Emma, thinking about everything that had happened. 2 years ago, I'd thought my life was over. I'd buried my wife, mourned my marriage, and resigned myself to growing old alone. Now I had a daughter. I had a future. I had something worth fighting for. Mel's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but in the end, it had also given me the greatest gift of my life. This sleeping child, who would never know how much pain and deception had surrounded her birth. I kissed Emma's forehead and carried her to her crib. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities, new opportunities to build something better from the wreckage of the past. Tonight, though, I was content to sit in the dark and listen to my daughter breathe, grateful for the truth that had finally set us all free.